There was a viral story last week that brought to light one of the biggest women's rights issues I have heard of in a while, and yet those who often talk about women's rights were actually very silent on this one. Now I want to give you a brief overview of this story before getting into the nuance of it all, because it was very much everywhere in terms of just the headlines and little clip notes and spark notes versions, but I wanted to kind of lay out the entire story. A couple hires a woman to carry their child. Then the child is found out to have a heart condition. Then they no longer want the child and want the surrogate to abort. The thing is though, the surrogate refuses. And then a fight ensues. The surrogate ends up fleeing a state to get away from them to make sure that she's in a protected state where she's not going to be forced to have an abortion. Ultimately though, she has this baby, and then a restraining order is issued, and it is not issued against the parents who wanted to kill the child. It is issued against the woman who saved the baby's life, its birth mother. And who gets custody of this precious baby? Well, the parents. Again, the people who wanted the baby dead. Now, honestly, this story sounds even worse when you just highlight the facts like that, but that's what I wanted to do because I think it's important when we're talking about something like surrogacy. We talked about it briefly on this channel before, the story where billionaires from China were hiring US surrogates to have US-born babies. It was a crazy story that uncovered so many questions ethically and morally around surrogacy. And as I have dove deep into that rabbit hole, I've continued asking questions about this industry. Frankly, one that up until recently, I hadn't really asked any questions about. I didn't really have an opinion one way or another on it. I didn't really know or realize how many ethical questions there were. And now that I've gotten further and further in, I have way more questions, way more concerns, and that's why I think it's important to dive into stories like this when they come up, so we can unpack them and understand what is going on with this industry, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to protecting kids, and that is something that I am very passionate about, and that I want to make sure that I am as informed as possible about issues like this. So let me lay out a little bit more about this story in particular. So McKenna West is the birth mother and the surrogate in this story, and she was a newly single mom at the time when she was considering surrogacy because she was already a nurse, already working full-time. She didn't have time for another job. She was also already a mother to 2 other children, so she was grappling with what to do to make more money without having to take on that second job when she discovered surrogacy and thought more about that. And it was clear from an interview that she recently gave that she didn't consider any downsides to it. It just seemed like a good thing to do to help another family get pregnant. And I think on the surface, and especially for me looking at a surrogacy from afar, it seems like a good thing. Like it's good intentions. Obviously, most of the women that get involved in this, they do have good intentions. It's obviously helping another family. And so it's sort of seen like that. So she soon got connected with an agency, then she met a family that she thought would be a good match, and ultimately she was paired with this family to bring their child to the world. So for many weeks, she was successfully carrying this child. I think around the 8-week appointment, she got ultrasounds, she got to send the photos to the family. The family literally said that they hung these ultrasound photos on their fridge. They were so excited. Everyone was happy, everything was good, and she also thought that because she had this good relationship with the family, that ultimately she would be able to hopefully have some form of relationship with this child in the future, because why wouldn't she? Everything was good. Up until the 20-week appointment. And it was at that appointment, it's called typically the anatomy scan, where you really get a full understanding of the baby. You check all their fingers and toes and make sure that they're healthy, but also any abnormalities or any issues also often come up in that scan. And so she was at the appointment and had FaceTimed in the bio parents, and they were all there to hear that the baby had been diagnosed with a heart condition. The heart condition is called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, and it is a condition that can be essentially fatal if not treated when the baby is first born. So it is not at all a death sentence to the baby, but it is something that will have to be treated right away to make sure that the baby's going to be okay. And so they learned this news, and apparently in that first meeting when they heard that, the bio parents asked their options about termination to the doctor right there. Even though the doctor hadn't brought it up as even something to discuss, the bio parents immediately brought it up. And that question also got McKenna thinking that maybe the parents were going to consider this. And so that appointment happened on a Friday. And so over the weekend, McKenna was finding all these hopeful stories, learning that babies with this condition can be okay, they can go on to live full lives, that again, it is not a death sentence at all, and that the baby could be okay. And shockingly, she even knew someone in her life who had this condition and was a thriving teenager. And I wanted to highlight that reaction because that is the natural reaction to finding out that your baby has this condition. You want to find out the success stories. You want to find all the different things to hope and understand about it and not look at the negative and the scary. And so that's what McKenna did, and she was sending messages even to the agency, making sure to try to get them to the parents to say, hey, look, don't worry, things are going to be okay. This baby can be just fine. And by Monday morning, though, she got a message requesting an abortion. Now, to really understand the gravity of that request, I want to play McKenna's own words talking about this because, again, I think so much of these stories, when you're just reading them, they don't have that that level of gravity or understanding of exactly what is being asked of someone and what is being done, and the different emotional and moral and ethical questions that kind of play into that. So I want to show McKenna's own words because she was recently interviewed by Lila Rose from Live Action while she was still pregnant with baby Gabriel at this point in the story. This is her sharing what it felt like to be told that these excited parents that were so excited for the baby inside of her no longer want the baby, and they want her to ultimately be responsible for the termination of that baby's life.
It was just a horrible, trapped feeling to be like, this is my body and I absolutely don't want to go through this, but I would have to, in order for it to be done, I would have to be a willing participant. I would be the one signing the consent papers at the abortion clinic. And I didn't think that I could live with myself doing that.
I just hear the echoing of my body, my choice in this. And though that phrase doesn't actually work in the way that people use it as, again, because it's two different bodies, this story actually completely applies to it is her body, and yet in this case, she doesn't have a choice about what she does with it. Or at least she felt like she didn't have a choice or didn't have the freedom to walk away from this very scary decision. And this is at least now 20 weeks into the pregnancy, if not 21 by this point. At that point in a pregnancy, you're feeling the baby move. A baby is technically viable right now. At 21 weeks, they can be born. Babies have successfully been born at 21 weeks. So this is a baby. Now, obviously, I would argue it is a baby from inception, but especially now, this baby can live outside of the womb. And yet, seemingly, the second that the bio parents heard that there was anything wrong with this baby that they were buying, essentially, they wanted to end it. They wanted to stop the baby's life. And they were requesting to do so via the contract that McKenna signed where there was a termination clause in it. And she says at the time she didn't even consider that. It wasn't even something that was a red flag to her because it wasn't even on the radar that that could even be a possibility. And I guess the agency also said like, no, that never happens, don't worry about that. And so she didn't, until of course it happened to her. And thankfully though, she didn't want to do it. She loved this baby, she cared for this baby, and she thought that he deserved a chance at life. And so, in this very dystopian feeling story, she ultimately started fighting against the baby's own parents to keep the baby safe and alive and growing in her womb. But before the fight really ensued, she thought that she had to do this. She thought this was her only option. Of course, contracts are scary, and also having hundreds of thousands of dollars teased over your head is something that you may be responsible for if you opt out of this contract is very scary, especially to someone like McKenna, who was a surrogate because she needed the money, and she was a single mom, and there were a lot of circumstances working against her that made this even more scary and overwhelming, but she really didn't want to go through with it. So she ultimately did have an appointment booked. I believe she was at 22 weeks when she first had it booked, and she had to have an appointment for an abortion booked in a different state because her home state of Alaska didn't even perform abortions at that point in the pregnancy, so she would have to fly, and so there were multiple steps to getting that abortion. So thankfully, by the grace of God, she had the first one booked and ultimately pushed it another week, and at that point in the story, another family member stepped in because they knew that she was also struggling with what she felt she had to do versus what she morally wanted to do. And I want to share this directly from McKenna here again because I think it is such an important point, especially as people who are pro-life advocates and people who support life at all stages. And so I think it's important to hear how someone who truly believes that cause lives that out in real life.
Based on the contract that I had gone into, I knew that not agreeing to this would lead to large financial risks. I could be responsible for paying everything back, which wasn't something I could do, and was a huge part of why I felt I had no other option. It was just like, who am I as a single mom to go into, a legal battle or find lawyers? Like, I don't have the means to do that. My older brother had texted me during the day and just said, hey, give me a call when you get off. I just want to talk to you about something. And so I got off work like 7:30 at night and called my brother, and he just shared with me how deeply he did not want me to have to go through with this procedure, and he knew how I felt about it and how scared I was. He told me that he had talked to his wife and that they would adopt this baby if it meant a way out for me. And he's like, what can they take from you? Like, you have us, you have your family. They can try to come after money that you don't have. But like, we're here for you. You'll be taken care of. And he just let me know how much he loved me, and whatever I chose, he was here. He was there for me. But that just gave me so much courage and so much hope of a way out, and that I didn't have to do this. It was scary. Facing financial ruin was scary, but nothing was scarier than questioning my own soul and knowing what would happen to this baby boy if I flew to Seattle. And his life doesn't have a price tag on it. There's nothing that they could try to come after me for that would be worth his life.
First of all, too, the brother in this story, I mean, he totally transforms the energy around her decision and her ability to then change course here. So it's so cool because that is, I mean, for her brother, that baby's a stranger. There's no biological connection. There's no nothing. And yet he would rather sacrifice and adopt that baby than allow it to be killed. I mean, that is being pro-life through and through, to the point of bringing on a new family member just so that an abortion doesn't have to take place. I mean, that's a phenomenal thing in and of itself. And also, she says there at the end about, you know, this baby doesn't have a price tag. Of course he doesn't. He shouldn't. He's a baby. He's a human being. But in this industry, he sort of did. I mean, they paid for this service, and then they wanted to end his life. And via a contract in these surrogacy agreements, which apparently this is very common, there's very often a termination clause. And this family wanted to terminate over a heart condition, but it can be over anything and everything at any point. And I don't think people realize the gravity of that until, again, a situation like this where she's actually being faced with having to go through with that and what that looks like. But it just feels so cold. I mean, these people are in a different state from her. They're in LA and she's in Alaska, and it's this process that is so separate, and yet the motherly instincts are coming out in the woman who is not even the bio mother. This instinct to nurture and to protect. And again, this development of love that you feel for the baby that you're growing. I mean, that, like, biologically speaking, having just birthed a baby and grown said baby for 9 months, like, you feel a bond to it. It's in your body, of course you do. There's so many elements of this industry that, again, the more I think about it, the more that I, now having had a kid too, there's so much there that doesn't make sense and that feels so unnatural in a way that I think can really harm a child. In addition to a mother, to a woman here, to someone who feels very much taken advantage of in this situation. And yes, she knew what she was getting into, but again, I think there's a lot of this industry at large where no one really understands the harder parts until they are presented. But anyways, to get back to this story, with this newfound confidence that she had from someone like her brother offering that, she started looking for alternative outlets, a different way to get out of this. And ultimately, she knew a woman who actually ended up knowing Lila and got her in touch with the live action team. And then obviously the live action team is equipped with doctors and lawyers and a team that can help this woman, and they did. And so I believe she worked with Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a fantastic organization, but they ultimately equipped her with the protection to be able to carry this baby to term. She eventually decided to go to Texas and give birth there because she knew, first of all, the baby would be given care immediately upon delivery, because that was a huge part of the story. It needed that proper care. And that there are also teams in a certain place in Texas that were able to give that care, because not every hospital could. And she wanted to make sure that she was not giving birth at a hospital that just so happened to not be able to care for the baby. Because again, at this point, she's the only one advocating for his life. And so a literal fight was on for his life. The surrogate versus the bio parents. One seeking to get the kid killed and one seeking to protect the child. I mean, it feels so dystopian and scary, but it is a completely true story. And frankly, this is a story in which it got viral attention. We know McKenna's name. We know the bio parent's name now. It became a viral story. But how many times does this happen in this industry in which no one ever hears about it? In which a vulnerable mother doesn't know that she has other options, doesn't think that she does, gets pressured into these decisions because no one's talking about it. I mean, in this story, it got so big that the Texas Attorney General got involved and that a judge in Dallas got involved to ensure that this baby's safety into the world. But who knows how often this happens where that isn't the case. Now, thankfully, again, in McKenna's case, she was able to deliver this baby and he was born and he immediately got the treatment that he needed and he got into surgery. And so far from all reports, he is doing well. But what makes this story, unfortunately, even more heartbreaking is that upon delivery, McKenna was giving a restraining order against the baby that was just in her for the last 9 months, the baby that she defended to make sure that the baby survived. And he was immediately removed from her care and she wasn't even able to hold him. And again, that reality that can even happen, that a woman who gives birth to a baby can't even hold the baby after, that only works in this industry. And again, it feels so unnatural and cold and disconnected, and that's because it is. And again, I'm only realizing that the more and more I dive into this industry and understanding exactly how it even works. And then the reality that this baby that was unwanted by these bio parents now goes into the custody of those parents. And as of right now, the status of this story, again, this stuff has just happened. I don't know now the custody fight, if anyone else will ever be able to gain custody, if it is now the bio parent and that's just the end of the story. But again, this story has created so many questions, both for the safety of surrogate mothers and also for the safety of these babies. But I wanted to highlight a little bit of the coverage that the national media was giving around this, specifically with a couple ABC articles, because I found this so jarring and it almost felt like gaslighting us about the story we just heard versus how they were trying to spin it in the national media, and I just needed to share this. So the bio parents' attorney spoke with an ABC outlet and they said that, the biological parents now have full legal custody of the child. And they said, quote, "Right now, our clients are continuing to place their baby's health and well-being first, following the advice of the baby's medical team, as they always have, and just as any loving parent would." Just as they always have. They weren't just seeking for the last 20 weeks to get the baby killed. No. They were doing what any loving parent would always do. Again, the same people who were just trying to get the baby aborted. I read these quotes and I'm like, am I reading from this? I mean, this is the same story, but it seems so asinine. That's factually untrue. The only reason the baby is even here and we're talking about medical treatments and medical teams is because this woman decided to save the baby's life. I feel like I'm reading like a completely different world. The quote goes on, "As if the heartbreak of his condition were not enough, they are devastated to see their family tragedy transformed into political theater by the Texas Attorney General's office and McKenna West, trying to blame the AG and McKenna West for saving their son's life. And then pretending like that's the travesty in the situation. And then they try to spin it like, oh, the sadness is actually because of McKenna. No, she saved your baby's life. Is it heartbreaking that this child has this condition? Yes, but he's been treated, he's being saved. It's a hopeful story, it's a wonderful story, and yet that's what they're saying? They're blaming Texas for being a sanctuary to make sure that she was actually safe, and they're blaming McKenna for actually bringing him to term? They get to hold their child because of McKenna. I can't grapple with the righteous anger that this story causes. It also said in another quote on another ABC article, the couple's worst fear, Ahmed wrote, which is one of the parents in court filings, was that West may try to keep our child from us after she gives birth to him. That was their worst fear. Now that the baby had to be born, now they're afraid that McKenna's gonna actually want to try to keep the child. It's shocking to me that they, again, can even say that. They didn't want the child, they wanted him aborted. If it was up to them, this baby wouldn't even be here. And now they can even pretend to be scared that McKenna wants the baby, wants to take care of him because maybe she doesn't trust that they're gonna wanna take care of him. That's not a crazy thought at all. It just begs the question that how are parental rights not terminated the second that the parent wants the child terminated? I feel like that's a fair question to ask in a story like this. That I'm not confident that that baby is going to be raised in good, caring hands anymore. I mean, is that the craziest thought? I mean, even versus someone like the stranger brother who was willing to bring this baby into their family just to make sure that he wasn't killed. I mean, that's the kind of heart that actually sounds like true parents. This sounds like they were stuck with this purchase that they wanted to return, but they couldn't because it's not a purchase, it's a human being. And then they're stuck with the reality of that, and now they're trying to paint it like, actually, no, McKenna's the bad person in the situation. Again, you almost can't make this stuff up. Now, I also just thought this was interesting, that at the end of these different ABC articles, again, this is national news, they just kind of take the last couple paragraphs to summarize what the heart condition is. So they talk about, it affects one side of the heart, prevents normal blood flow. If left untreated, the condition causes severe symptoms such as trouble breathing, skin rashes, weak pulse, ashen skin. That it requires a set of 3 surgeries, one of which happens right after the baby is born, which is what happened in his case. That only about 925 babies in the US are born with this each year, and just talking about the rarity of this case. But as if that's supposed to make us feel like bad that he lived, like that actually makes it justifiable for the parents to even consider ending his life, that it was going to be hard, that there was going to be some initial difficulties in his life. It just felt like they were sharing those details to kind of allow the reader to decide if his life was really worth it. It's going to be hard, they say. His condition is rare, they say, considering the suffering they implore, like as if all those things would justify his life being ended before it even started. And I think right there, that reality is crux to the abortion debate for many people as well. That if the baby has to suffer at all, then his premature death before he's even born is actually justified. Sort of like if he will suffer, then you might as well just put him out of his misery. And only when human life is valued so little in a society can a question like that even be posed. It is also the same society that is growing in support around euthanasia, about the right to just end your life. Again, how little value we're putting on life. Like if it stops the suffering, then it's some sort of empathetic or kind decision to allow that. Again, only in a warped society is that even on the table. It's only when that sanctity of human life is lost and that hope is lost where this idea flourishes, and we're seeing it flourish today. So yes, some of these topics and these conversations are hard to wrestle with and understand and think about, but they're important nonetheless, if not even more important because of that. How many other McKennas are out there? How many other women are facing these scary fetal diagnoses and not knowing what to do? And because of that, I think the more that we are informed about these topics, the more we are better equipped to help those women and ultimately to help children, which at the end of the day is the most important thing we can do as a nation. So that wraps up my deep dive on this particular story. As more things continue to develop, I will make sure to let you guys know. I would just really encourage you guys to keep McKenna in your prayers, and also this baby and his little life, because obviously he has entered into the world in a very harsh and abnormal way, and yet obviously I believe that in hope and that he can flourish and live a happy life. And so I just encourage you guys to pray for that little man as well. But that is all for today's episode. I hope you guys feel more informed and empowered to have these discussions, to bring these topics into conversation and really debate it and talk about it, because again, I think that is the most important way to move forward and make the right decisions about things like this. So I'll talk to you guys in another episode. See you next week.